Hello, Wendigo799.
Hola.
Hello, how are you today?
Pretty good.
That's good to hear. This is episode 1 of Piggy Starring, my Piggy podcast where I interview Piggy content creators like you across the Piggy community. I ask them a few questions. We have conversations about it. I have a few questions to ask you today, so let's get started with question 1. So, when choosing what you want to do when becoming a YouTuber, what made you choose Piggy over other Roblox games?
So the main reason why I chose to do Piggy at the time was simply because it was literally one of the only games I could actually play due to how bad my old PC was. I also had a bit more familiarity with Piggy itself, so it was more comfortable doing Piggy content, but the main reason why is because I literally couldn't play anything else at the time. I had a very potato-ish PC.
I think I'm pretty sure if I have my facts correct, you have got a new PC now.
Yeah.
That's
Thankfully.
good. That's good to hear. And is this the reason why you do stuff like Forsaken now?
That and a couple other reasons, mainly doing with Piggy's community.
Oh yeah, we don't want to ramble on about Piggy's community. No. So, going on to the next question. Was there a specific video on your channel that made you realise, okay, people actually want to watch this sort of content? Like, I have a channel here that people will watch.
I'd suppose that would probably be my first video where I talked about Piggy YouTubers and just how the landscape of Piggy YouTube was kind of suffering. I realized while making that video that Piggy content was pretty dry and it would be pretty easy to break into it.
Yes.
Competition was very scarce.
Yeah, I've seen, there's, with most of the YouTubers being news YouTubers, it's very easy. I think, I see your point, it is kind of easy to get views if you come up with something original, because a lot of the viewers, don't really want to watch the news content. Talking about that, if Piggy never existed, what kind of content do you think you'd be making instead?
Most likely, I would have ended up making Tower Defense Simulator content, because it's like my third most played game now. Or I would have ended up waiting until Forsaken released to just make content on that game.
Yeah, so you're saying that if Piggy never existed, it might have been another, 1 year until you started actually making content?
Yep.
Is there a possibility you never even started making content at all?
Yes and no. I might have not made Roblox content. I might have just made Minecraft content or tried breaking into that niche.
Yes, Minecraft is cool.
Very cool.
What do you think people misunderstand about the Piggy storyline or lore the most, and it just grinds your gears when people get it wrong and you think this is incorrect?
I'm not really the most invested in Piggy's lore, mainly because things change really fast with Piggy lore, and all the old information that I used to know, kind of very inconsistent. Not really my cup of tea, but if I was to pick something, it would probably be just about anything to do with Mr. P or Miss P, since basically all of the lore that's dropped combined with everything in the past has kind of made it a little more confusing to keep up with, and it's very hard to get a just on what's actually going on.
See, I actually completely agree with your point there, actually. I do think, though, that a lot of the reason why the Piggy lore is becoming a lot more complicated, a lot more all over the place, is because Minitoon from book 1 had no idea what he was going to do with the lore. So I think they've all sort of come up with this really quickly. So it's like a really rushed written lore.
Yeah.
Onto that, what Piggy character do you think is the most underrated and why?
This is kind of difficult since I feel like most Piggy characters that are close to the story get either fairly rated or pretty glazed.
Like Sparky.
But I feel like yeah, I feel like the character receiving the least attention right now though is debatably Tio, or really anybody involved with the insolence.
Yeah.
For the villain of Piggy's story, it shocks me at how how quickly people pushed past his arc so easily.
Yeah, and also how little he's really shown up in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, he feels like an exclusive book 2 thing almost.
Yeah, I mean, we don't even know how much we're going to see of him in Intercity, and that's kind of concerning. What's one theory about Piggy you think is completely wrong, but everyone believes?
definitely gonna be the eye thing. I know it's like canon, or at least I think it is, but it's just so dumb in my opinion. We've been on it for years, and yeah, the concept's cool, but it's really lost its flair over time. It's also kind of hard to understand how eye color has anything to do with the characters who are infected, and if it is fully canon, it feels like a lazy way of world building almost.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 2 years, I think, since Mini2 ever said anything about eye colours meaning something to do with their personality. And every now and then I still see a video popping up on my feed about someone breaking it down. Well, there's already been like 10 videos doing the same thing.
I see videos like that every once in a while. I've just stopped watching them because I've already heard it so many times.
Yeah, and they all say different things as well. I mean, no one could really know for sure anyways what they mean.
Yeah.
It just seems a bit stupid guessing. Now, if you could ask any developer in Piggy one question about the lore, what would it be?
What even is Piggy lore at this point? I mean, like, I understand most of it, I guess, but at the same time, I lose the plot more and more with each update. It feels like every update drastically covers a different aspect of the lore. It's hard to tie it all back together without actually having to take a minute to think about it.
So you'd ask the developer to fix the lore?
I'd ask them more so to break it down in a simpler way, if anything. Something more casual for casual players.
Yeah, because when a lore gets... It's like FNAF lore. Like, no casual FNAF player's gonna really get the gist of the lore. And it's becoming like that for Piggy, where no casual player's gonna properly understand the lore, meaning that they're not gonna be as invested in it. Now, if you were designing a Piggy chapter, what mechanics would you add? And where would the chapter be set?
So I'd primarily focus a lot more on balancing if it's like a main chapter that would be included in 12 chapters or a book, as I'm pretty sure a majority of people could agree that most Piggy maps are pretty unbalanced at times.
Yes.
But if it was an extra chapter, I'd definitely focus more on puzzle aspects of the game, as I think the puzzles and extra chapters are actually pretty cool.
So something similar to Decay?
Yeah.
Yes. I like Decay.
Decay was pretty fun. I see somebody's behind the barrel.
Oh dear. How did he get here? You know what this calls for? Bye.
Bye.
Anyways, let's try and move on from that. What gameplay mechanic do you think Piggy never fully explored but could have?
I guess really just more unique traps and the ability to have bots actually utilize traps more. Most traps nowadays kind of suck or just a copy of the last one, and I really like the new trap because it feels slightly different. But I feel like Piggy definitely starved players of traps.
Yeah, and a lot of the time when we did get a new cool trap, it was hella buggy.
Yeah.
Wizards Watch Studios. Now, talking about Piggy gameplay mechanics, because this could have an impact on your decision for this next question. What do you think makes a Piggy map memorable versus forgettable?
I think this is easily determined by how fun it was to play and its replayability. For example, maps like Breakout or Mansion were pretty fun just because they had really cool mechanics and were very different from the base game while still holding its identity. And if you compare those to something like Decay or Delirium, they're still pretty decent, but the replayability is not really there. The best parts about those maps were the chases, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Now, have you ever had a Piggy video idea that sounded great but completely failed when you made it?
Both of my versus videos revolving around traps. They were pretty creative ideas on paper. I've never seen anybody do one before, but in execution, they didn't really do that well. I didn't know how to hold retention back then, or make good thumbnails, and I just didn't know what the Piggy algorithm favored. I was still experimenting a lot, but definitely not a good idea in execution.
What is the weirdest or funniest moment you've had while recording a video?
Coincidentally, this was also in my versus video.
Oh,
Default
these
trap
videos
versus
sound like a
inflatable
complete
trap.
disaster.
I think the 12-minute 40-second mark in the video, I was playing against my friend, and I was letting him use inflatable trap, and I got caught in it, so I thought I was gonna die, but then, since Piggy has invisible walls on most staircases, he was literally stopped by a force field inches away from me.
Oh dear.
Go upstairs.
I think I might just soul here.
And win. Bruh!
Now, how do you think the Piggy community has changed since the first game? So since Piggy blew up all the way back in 2020.
It feels like it's gotten a lot more toxic as time goes on.
I actually completely
'Cause,
agree
like,
with you.
Back when the game was popular, we had a much larger variety of players, but now it feels like we're just kind of left with people who only see the game in one light, and, well, not everybody in the community is as toxic, but Piggy's the only community where I can say I've received something along the lines of death threats over a simple opinion.
Same. I completely agree with you on that one. I mean, I've seen you've made posts about it or comments and stuff saying like, because I've seen it and you've told me about it, but like you get so much hate from a lot of your videos just for having an opinion that they disagree with, and people just harass you, and I've seen it happen to people who make similar content to you, like Q splits, and it's a lot more toxic, I think.
It's like it's harder to have an original opinion in the community without there being 10 people who strongly disagree and go out of their way to try to DM you.
Yeah.
Or leave long comments about it.
Yeah, and a lot of those comments make no sense. Now, do you think that Piggy could ever have a second big revival, similar to what happened to B-Swap Simulator? I don't even know how they revived that game, but if you do think that is possible, what would need to happen for that to happen?
It's definitely possible. Like, 100% could. But they'd need to do a major recode and a major rebalance to even think about it. Just because right now, Piggy's probably the buggiest and most unbalanced ASIM game I play. And it's not really even close. But that's something that could easily be fixed with a recode. I also think that restructuring the gameplay a little more would, like, into a modern style would be, well, a good idea, just because it would appeal to new players more. Instead of 10-minute matches, instead maybe shorten the gameplay and make it more diverse.
So sort of you want to make the gameplay more similar to Forsaken, because Forsaken they have the shorter rounds and it's more fast paced.
Something along those lines. Making it so that way it's less up to RNG though would probably be the best thing they could do, because right now a Piggy match is completely determined by where the items spawn.
He's back. Talking about Piggy's revival, what do you think Piggy did better than most other Roblox games to even get as popular as it was before?
I think the thing that made Piggy so popular in the first place was the fact that, well, it was a simple ASIM game and it had an easy to follow story at the start. There wasn't a whole bunch of extra chapters and extra lore going on around the scenes. It was just a simple lore game that was pretty fun to play, especially with friends. And back then, balancing wasn't that big of an issue because, well, the game just had a more simplistic feel than what it does now.
So a possibility for Piggy's downfall is the fact that they started overcomplicating things.
Yeah, I think that's like the main thing that's kind of ruined Piggy for me. Many other people is just how complicated. Yeah.
Nice, you're speaking gibberish today. All right, now, what is the most overrated Piggy chapter in the whole of the world of the land that's ever existed in existence?
Yeah, this is gonna come as a shock to nobody, but easily Carnival.
Whoa.
Though House is a pretty close second.
I never would have known. You would have said that. Yeah.
It's just... everybody votes for this map. It's hard to get into a lobby where they're not voting for it.
Yeah, I think literally anyone in the Piggy community could agree on you for that one.
The only reason why I'd say House is a pretty close second is because a lot of people tell me that it's a really balanced map, even though that map completely depends on one item's spawn location.
Yeah, I would say in terms of building structure, it is a pretty balanced map, but like it is heavily determined on RNG. Like, I don't think there's another Piggy map that has as much variety of where the items spawn as House.
Yeah.
Going on to the opposite of the last question, what is the most underrated Piggy chapter of the whole wide world?
So, I don't really play Book 2 that much, so I can't really speak for any of those maps, but I think Chapter 6, Hospital, is pretty underrated. I don't see many people play it, but in my opinion, it's one of the more balanced maps.
I agree. I'd say it is, yeah. Do you think Piggy should ever get a full sequel? Piggy Book 3?
Even if I know it's not gonna happen, and it's 100% a little too late for it, it could definitely help the player count a lot. So, yeah, it would be a pretty interesting idea too.
Yes, a Piggy Book 3 in the style of Book 1. Guys, don't spread hate comments after what Wendigo says for this next question, because this is the what is your hottest Piggy take that will make fans angry and mad and make them be rude.
So, this was the take that actually made me quit doing Piggy content primarily, just because the backlash I got for this take was insane. But Piggy is easily the most unbalanced ASIM game I play. I already said it earlier, but the entire game is RNG dependent, the traps are very mid, and overall the game is incredibly survivor-sided. The map voting system kind of sucks, and I could rant and rant about why I think Piggy is way too survivor-sided.
I do think Piggy is a really unbalanced game though, because there's some maps that make it sometimes, like Gallery for instance, really easy for the Piggy, and then some maps like Carnival really easy for the player, and it's like I don't understand like how that sort of thing can happen. I mean, it's not, in my opinion, it's not that difficult to plan in your head how to like make a map balanced.
I feel like the earlier chapters, they weren't really thinking about balancing so much as they were just thinking about making more maps to expand on the lore. That's kind of how we got monstrosities like Carnival.
Yeah, and also Minitoon was building himself one chapter every week, so a lot of that pressure could come to stuff like the Abomination of Carnival. That map is like the most abominable abomination in of all abominations.
Yeah.
Now, if Piggy became a movie, which characters would you want as the main focus?
Either the player or maybe a character like Tiggery or Willow, since they've always seemed the most interesting and their story's yet to really be explored.
Yeah, I think if I wanted a Piggy movie, I'd set it out from chapter 1, and I'd focus on showing the player's storyline before expanding onto like what you said, Willow and Tiggery, or the Insolence.
Yeah.
Which Piggy character would survive the longest in a real apocalypse? Like tomorrow, there's zombies walking everywhere. Which Piggy character would survive the longest?
I don't know too much about most of the Piggy characters and their backgrounds, but from what little I do know, I'm gonna go with Tiggery. If I'm not wrong, he has some form of military training, which would definitely give him a pretty big edge over other characters who just seem like casual people.
You missed the best answer, the player, since he's immune.
I guess that's also true, but who needs him?
So you're telling me just Tiggery's just built to kick asses?
Yeah,
Now,
I think there are some other military characters in the Piggy story, but I wouldn't know.
Yeah, me neither. Now, for our final question for today, where'd you get the name Wendigo799 from?
Very, geez, what's the word? Nah, I forgot the word. Yeah, anticlimactic, but I just really like creepypastas, and I love cryptids, and I really couldn't tell you where the 79 part came from, or $7.99. I needed numbers, and I needed them fast.
So you're telling me that you're a copy of Mini 2 Fan 99?
Yeah.
Wow. A man built on originality on his content, copied Mini 2 Fan 99. I'm not impressed. Not impressed the slightest. When to go? We'll have to discuss this after the podcast because I'm not impressed. I'm disappointed. Anyways, guys, that's it for this podcast. If you don't subscribe, I'm going to eat you.